The president is delivering remarks about his administration's response to Helene. Let's watch.
Carolina and Tennessee, about the broad and devastating impacts of Hurricane Helene. It's not just a catastrophic storm, it's a historic, history-making storm. The entire Southeast and Appalachia. Damage from the hurricane stretches across at least 10 states. Winds over 120 miles an hour in some places. Storm surges up to 15 feet and record flooding. Communities are devastated. Loved ones waiting, not sure if their loved ones are okay, and they can't contact them because there's no cell phone connections. Many more folks displaced with no idea when they'll be able to be returned to the home, if ever, if there's a home to return to. So we're keeping them all in our prayers, and all the lives lost, and those particularly unaccounted for. There's nothing like wondering, is my husband, wife, son, daughter, mother, father alive? And many more who remain without electricity, water, food, and communications. And whose homes and businesses have washed away in an instant. I want them to know we're not leaving until the job is done. I also want you to know I'm committed to traveling to the impacted areas as soon as possible, but I've been told that it would be disruptive if I did it right now. We will not do that at the risk of diverting or delaying any of the response assets needed to deal with this crisis. My first responsibility is to get all the help needed to those impacted areas. And I expect to be there, excuse me, I have a cold, I expect to be there later this week. I and my team are in constant contact with the governors, mayors, and local leaders. The head of FEMA, Deanne Griswold, is on the ground now in North Carolina. She's going to stay in Asheville and the Appalachia region for the foreseeable future. There's been reports of over 100 dead and consequence of this storm, and there are reports of up to 600 people unaccounted for because they can't be contacted. God willing, they're alive, but there's no way to contact them again because of the lack of cell phone coverage. I've directed my team to provide every available resource as fast as possible to your communities to rescue, recover, and to begin rebuilding. In addition to FEMA, it includes the Federal Communications Commission to help establish communications capability, the National Guard, the Army Corps of Engineers, and the Department of Defense are going to provide all the resources at its disposal to rescue and assist in clearing debris and delivering life-saving supplies. So far, that's over 3,600 personnel deployed. That number is growing by the day. I quickly approved requests from governors of Florida, North Carolina, South Carolina, Tennessee, Georgia, Virginia, and Alabama for an emergency declaration. And I approved additional requests for the governors of North Carolina, Florida, South Carolina, and for a disaster declaration to pay for debris removal and provide financial assistance directly to survivors. FEMA and the Small Business Administration are there to help the residents whose homes and businesses were literally destroyed, washed away, or blown away. And the federal search and rescue teams have been working side by side with state and local officials and partners in very treacherous conditions to find those who are missing. And they'll not rest until everyone's accounted for. I want to thank all the first responders and everyone who's been working around the clock. One of the brave teams who's volunteered to be there is from San Diego County Fire Department, set to travel all the way from California to North Carolina to help. But on their way, they were in a terrible car accident in Louisiana. We pray for their full recovery, but it was a bad accident. We know there's more to do, and we'll continue to surge resources, including food, water, communications, and life-saving equipment. We'll be there, as I said before, and I mean it, as long as it takes to finish this job. Let me close with this. As president, I've seen firsthand the devastating toll that disasters like this take on families and communities. I've been on the ground in many disaster areas since I've been president. Excuse me, and I've heard dozens of stories from survivors about how it feels to be left with nothing, not even knowing where or when to get back on track. I'm here to tell every single survivor in these impacted areas that we will be there with you as long as it takes. For the sake of yourselves, excuse me, and your families, I urge everyone returning to their communities and home to listen to the local officials and follow all safety instructions. Take this seriously. Please be safe. Your nation has your back, and the Biden-Harris administration will be there until the job is done. God bless you all, and I'm thinking of those that are still wondering where your loved ones are. Thank you.
Will you need to supplemental to help the people in the Southeast, Mr. President?
Say again?
Will you need to ask Congress for a supplemental?
That's my expectation, yes.
You know roughly how much you're thinking?
Not yet. This is a historic storm. It's devastating. They've never seen anything like this before. And some of them are back-to-back, 3 storms in a row. So it's really, really devastating.
Would you consider asking Congress to come back for a special session to pass a supplemental?
That is something I may have to request, but no decision has been made yet.
Do you have a sense of where you'll go when you are able to go, sir?
Yes, I told the governor of North Carolina I'd go down, and I expect to be down there by Wednesday or Thursday. It would be clear for me to go. You guys have traveled with me. You know, there's an entourage. This can be disruptive.
Is there a mistake for President Trump to be down there today in Georgia? Is that disruptive?
I don't have any idea.
On another issue, on the other side of the world in the Middle East, it's our understanding...
I'm going to stick with this.
What's that?
I'm going to stick with this subject, but go ahead.
Well, it's just the fact that Israel may be now launching a limited operation into Lebanon. Are you aware of that? Are you comfortable with their plan?
I'm more aware than you might know, and I'm comfortable with them stopping. We should have a ceasefire now. Thank
Do
you.
you expect Iran to retaliate?
On the hurricane, Mr. President, why weren't you and Vice President Harris here in Washington commanding this weekend?
I was commanding. I was on the phone for at least 2 hours yesterday and the day before as well. I command. It's called a telephone. And all my security people.
Is it not important for the country to see?
That was President Biden there speaking from the White House, discussing the toll that Helene has exacted on the southeastern region of the United States. The president's calling it a history-making storm, saying the damage stretches across 10 states. Homes and businesses washed away in an instant. He says he would like to travel to the impacted areas ASAP, but said because of the entourage he travels with, it may be more destructive than helpful. He's hopeful that he will make it by Wednesday or Thursday. He says the head of FEMA is on the ground. And perhaps most tragically, he said there are 600 people still unaccounted for because of the loss of communications. He said, God willing, they're still alive. But right now, there's no way for their family members to contact them. CBS News has confirmed at least 116 fatalities. I want to bring in CBS News Chief White House correspondent Nancy Cordes. Nancy, the president says they're not leaving until the job is done. Why is it important for him as commander-in-chief to say the federal government has their back?
Because, first of all, they need the federal government right now more than ever. This storm, as you heard him say, is historic. This is an area that was not prepared for something like this. You heard all the government warnings days in advance to residents of Florida saying this is going to be life-threatening storm surge. You've got to get out of the way. You know, it wasn't until about 12 to 24 hours before the storm made it into North Carolina and Tennessee that we began to understand that it could be life-threatening there as well. And you just can see from the pictures how difficult it is for for federal resources to get into where they are needed most. So he needs to show that the federal government is invested, that it isn't going anywhere. This is obviously a matter of life and death. It's also obviously going to be a political issue as well because this is an election year.
And he was asked about Donald Trump's impending visit today, but he didn't really want to touch that. He said, I have no information about that. He was asked about whether he would have to go to Congress and ask for a supplemental funding package. Would he have to call for a special session? How does that work?
Well, anytime there's a big superstorm like this, it could be that FEMA just doesn't have the funds long term to do everything that it wants and needs and is being directed to do. So that would require a supplemental package. He didn't say how large. He said that's still being discussed, that Congress would have to come back and pass. Usually Congress would be around September, October to pass something like that. But again, this is an election year. You've got all these House lawmakers in particular who are back in their home districts running for re-election. So if this is on a knife's edge and they're about to run out of money, he indicated that he might need to bring Congress back to pass that. He also said he wants to go to the disaster zone as early as Wednesday or Thursday of this week to get a look at it himself. And I think we now have a little bit better sense why we didn't hear from him on camera over the weekend. He said he had a cold. He clearly sounded like he had a cold. He, was coughing intermittently throughout those remarks. And he said he took care of what he needed to do over the phone. but now we're finally seeing him in person on camera at the White House.
Our own Ed O'Keefe asked about the situation unfolding in the Middle East and the likely impending limited ground operation by the IDF into Lebanon. The president said, "I'm more aware than you know," and called again for a ceasefire.
Right. He didn't weigh in one way or the other about the IDF operation, but he did say that what he really wants is a ceasefire. And there is growing concern at the White House. They have been in touch with Israeli officials, but there's obviously major concern that this is going to mushroom into a wider conflict that cannot be controlled. So they're watching this with great concern.